Hello, welcome to the first Friday talk of this year. I wish you a very happy new year and I hope everybody is back and healthy from their respective new year breaks. So, today we are going to talk about procedural macros or proc macros. So, as in Rust we call them proc macros. What proc macros does is it is a unique Rust feature which allows us creating a custom derives and attributes like function like macros in a regular Rust code. In a layman language, I would call them as enhancing the capabilities of a function. So, for example, you already have a function and you want to add some capabilities to that function. You can write a proc macro, and the same type of capabilities can be added in each function by just adding that macro in on the top of that function. So what this proc macro actually does, it takes the block of your code, it adds the functionality on top of that code, and then it spits out that complete code so that that complete code can be used. Now, what all things are required to create a procedural macros? First of all, there are two types or three types of procedural macros. So one is the derived macros. For example, you must have seen we use a derived debug trait. Um, Let me show you if I have an example. So these are inbuilt derived macros are present in our Rust standard library as well. We tend to use them. Um, I was not aware about what exactly going on behind that code until today. Today I got some more clarity about proc macros. So that's what we're gonna discuss today, and we're gonna create a very simple proc macro. Which will just print the name of the function on which that proc macro has been applied to. So let's see how we can create a proc macro, what all things are required for a proc macro to be created. Now, in order to discuss about the different proc macros, let us just start creating it. So I'll just go one step back. Okay, cd home. Okay, desktop and space test Friday talk. Okay, now let's get started. Let's create a library. Cargo new proc macros. Let me call it my proc macro. And since we want to create a library, so we'll go to my proc lib code. Okay, we'll start coding over here. So let's first discuss the differences. So you must have seen this kind of thing. So if I want to define a struct, let's say my car, which has two field name plate of str and some fields. So in this we generally derive this debug trait, debug, right? Or we how we do that? Derive debug. So this type of macro is called as custom, or these are predefined macros in our standard libraries. Okay. Now we are going to create our own procedural macro today. So how it's gonna look like? We'll start doing that. So we'll need two things or two Rust programs. One is the proc macros code, and other program will be using our proc macro. So let's get started by creating first our own proc macro. So for that we need to define this library type. How can we do that? We need to add proc macro attribute as true over here. Now for creating any proc macro we need basic two crates, for example sin, and for sin we need a particular feature. So version we can use 2.0, but we need a features as full. Then we need qu quote library at version 1.0.70 something like that, I think 33. Then we need proc macro crate, proc macro 2 crate to create a proc macro. So this version is I guess 1.0. So these three dependencies, basic three dependencies we require. Then we start writing our proc macro. So let us first use the extern crate proc macro. This is a predefined crate in standard Rust. We can use it, but the only what do we say? The only way to use, or how can we call that? The only way we can use this is uh, we need to use this in only proc macro type of libraries. We cannot use this in any other standard library. So if you want to create a proc macro, we have to create a different library which is of type proc macro only. Then only we are able to use this external crate. So let's get other dependencies in sin. So from sin we require input. We require parse macro input function and item function to get the name of the function. Then also we require proc macro and token stream from it, because this token stream is a type in Rust. What does it has? It is a struct, and it is again an option type with some more token stream into it. I will not go more deep into that because even I am not 100% clear about that. Just consider it as a type in Rust. What it does is basically it acts as a data type in which we can add multiple trees, and those trees will be containing the information of the code on which our procedural macro is being defined. So just for time being we can just uh, take a step back from the details of the token stream, and let's concentrate on creating a macro first. So we have got sin, we have got proc macro, then we need quote also, quote, and then we can start writing our first proc macro. So since we are what we are doing, we are creating proc macro to print the function name of the calling function. So this is the attribute we need to use, proc macro attribute. Now here our function must be pub function. Let's call this macro as mm, identity identify, which will take input as attr, which is of type token stream, and function name, which is also of type token stream, and of course we are also going to return token stream. So you understand token stream is nothing but a type of data. We take that data, we wrap that data with extra functionality, and then we return that data. So just consider this token stream as a type, a data type. Now, what we need to do over here is first of all get the inputs from the the function. So what we need, let function is equals to parse macro input, and here we will give our fn name as item function. So this will return us the details of our function. Now let us assign everything. Let name is equals to reference of function dot signature dot identifier. Let input inputs is equals to the same function dot signature dot inputs. Similarly, we will get the output also. Output, not this output, we'll just say output is equals to function dot signature dot output. And finally, the block of code also we will need. So block is equals to function dot block. Now we have got all the parameters and all the details of the function. Now how to print that? So for that printing we need this quote library. So let's say mm, generated generated output should be of type quote. Now quote has to be written in a few what do we say, few specific manner. So anything starts with hash is the name. So when we say function name, let me see, fn fn name. uh, okay, let me start with fn name, and it has inputs inputs and it has outputs. This function is not required, I guess. So now in output, the functionality which we have added here is this thing, print ln. We will say calling function mm, stringify the fn name, and then we will execute the block of code. Not here, this here. Now what is the error it is showing? Let us see. And finally we are returning this token stream. So token stream, let me get this thing sorted. Token stream, say from generated output. Yeah, this is this. Let's say cargo build, and yeah, our macro is ready. Now in order to use this macro, we have to create another usage program. So let's say cargo new proc usage. Now cd proc usage code Now what we need to do over here is just import dependency. The name of our dependency is my proc macros. Let's see, my proc macro is equals to path at specified path 1/pack my my proc macros, and that's it. We are ready to use our proc macro in our main file. Here we say my proc macros that from identify. Now let us define a function addition a of I32 b of I32 returns I32 a plus b. Similarly, we have another function which says product and it returns a into b, and in main say let mm, a is equals to 10, b is equals to 20, and now the interesting part is here we can derive this thing, derive proc macro, identify on these functions and see what difference does it makes than normal calling. Now here I'm going to call mm, addition, and I'm going to call product. It needs, okay, I think we can test this. Cargo check, and I'm gonna do cargo run. So here guys you can see we are adding an functionality to multiple functions by creating a proc macro. So there is only one proc macro I have created, and that proc macro can be now used in various on any kind of function, and then it will print out the name of the function on which it has been called. So in this way we can enhance the already existing functionality of a function. There are various other things also we can do. We can add so this was a very simple very basic example of what a proc macro can do for us, like just as I mentioned, just printing the name of the variable. Similarly, we can add some traits, or we can for example, we discussed initially that we can derive some traits for a particular struct. We can add some functionality for a particular types. Um, all those things we can do with proc macros. Interesting, right? Yeah. So if you have any doubts, any suggestions, please write them in the chat window or the comments window, so that it will help us to improve our talks and to incorporate the feedback as well. And I guess that's all from my side for today. See you next time.